So I was watching Fox News today, and they had this police chief, this police captain on there, talking about the fringe elements that are dissatisfied with the police. Huh, really? Fringe elements? When I was putting my blogs up on a regular basis and was pretty much pushing to draw attention to the hypothetical legal arguments that I made and the evidence of police corruption and the evidence that the prosecutor and the judges did nothing about it in Raleigh County. I even went along with the police violating my rights and fabricating evidence and everything. There were people standing behind me. Now, yes, some of these would be considered the fringe elements. The rest of them were, well, pretty much everybody else. See, there's three types of people when it comes to cops. There's people who love the police, which are usually related to them. So, they get a little bit of a benefit from their brother, uncle, cousin, whatever, being a cop. There's people who have been arrested by them a lot and really just pretty much don't like them because once you get arrested, they pretty much just have it in for you because you've been arrested, so therefore they're just going to keep harassing you until they can get you on something. And then you have the people who just are like, yeah, well, fuck the police. And it's because they've been pretty much harassed and everything else by the police, which is really bad because these are the same people that usually get harassed by the police informants and the snitches and stuff like that. The criminals who are getting away with committing crimes because they're snitching on other criminals to get away with it. And you have no idea how widespread that is. Most people try to make it out like they don't snitch or snitching's not that big of a deal or it's not that big of a thing. But, about 80, 90, 75% at the least of the criminals out there are snitching. It's just facts. Of course, that's a made-up statistic by me based on what I've seen. Now, that being said, the people need to understand that. I was an example. Now, people are going to seek justice their own way. In my case, it was a hypothetical legal argument pointing out that there is a legal recourse for me to defend myself. That was it. Not so much going to even say that I was wanting violence. In fact, I even said I didn't want violence. But I mentioned that I could seek violence as a recourse under certain guidelines legally. Now, that has nothing to do with these people who are attacking and shooting police officers. What that is doing is essentially violating the law. But people will seek justice however they can. Whatever they feel is necessary to get it. And if that means people are going to run around and start shooting cops and killing cops, that's what's going to happen. This is something that's been building for years. This is something that has been an issue with people for years. Nobody gets out here, and there's no veterans union or anything else that threatens to withhold the public service of protecting people when veterans are killed by police officers. And there's a lot of cases where police officers will send SWAT teams to serve warrants when, regular beat cops should be able to do it. And these SWAT team guys run in there playing all paramilitary commando, and they shoot first and don't ask questions. There's been cases where they've sent SWAT teams to deal with veterans because the veterans have all this combat training and the cops were fucking pussies. Because they have basically the same combat training we do. But they were scared to go in and deal with someone who was actually trained to respond but doesn't have all this high-speed weapons and stuff that could have just been easily dealt with by saying, hey, can you come to the police station? Can we talk? We have a warrant. If that person refuses to come in to the warrant, then send the SWAT team. But no, and our government has said that veterans are a threat. We're potential terrorists because of our combat training. Yet police officers aren't. Now, I find that weird because if they would have said police officers would be a potential threat because of their combat training, which is similar to what the military gets, I can understand it. I can say, then you're saying anyone across the board who has this training is a potential threat, and that makes sense. That means people who attend tactical schools are a potential threat because they have training to be able to employ their weapons in an effective manner. Okay, that makes sense. But they were specifically targeting veterans. Of course, then again, unlike the police force, veterans take an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution, and it is the Constitution, against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And, of course, Special Forces is required to have a plan to take over the country in case the government goes rogue or, we get invaded by a foreign government that takes over and puts up a puppet government, and that was something that was done under Kennedy. So this has been there for a while. In fact, that's one of the conspiracy theorist ideas for why Kennedy was assassinated. But that protocol, that thing established by Kennedy, has never yet been pulled away from the Spec Ops guys. Now, the people killing cops and the people getting out chanting to kill cops and everything, I made a graphic hypothetical legal argument to draw attention to the evidence of criminal activity perpetrated by Trooper Duckworth, by Trooper Palmatier, by Trooper Moore, by Trooper Eford, by Lieutenant Deeds covering up for it, by Captain White covering up for him, by the Superintendent of State Police turning a blind eye to the whole thing. Even went so far as to the governor not doing anything to do with his police officers fabricating evidence and covering up for other officers and everything else. I did that for a reason. Because I was looking towards lawsuit and towards getting the state to involve itself in further criminal activity to kind of prove my point. And they even did that. In fact, Kristen Keller directly put herself in that position after December 3rd. I gave testimony to my BlackBerry having a video of my uncle, a recording, where we was in an argument where he'd admitted to, one, downloading the child pornography, two, to where he stated that he was friends with Deputy Jason Redden, who is, from my understanding, Ashley Redden's uncle, maybe. Anyways, used to date my cousin Jacqueline. And into being a police informant. He also talked about how he got special favors from Judge Burnside, who was the judge over top my terrorist threats case, and Kristen Keller, who was the prosecutor over top the case. So after this, then all of a sudden, I'm crazy, and they send me to Sharps because the prosecutor lied, and it's already been brought up in another video, so you can look at the evidence there. The thing about this is I've got them proving further criminal activity, further lies, further bullshit. And I did that for a reason, because of lawsuit. It wouldn't matter if I was still being charged with this. And it wouldn't matter if at some point that I was convicted of it. Because her lying and fabricating evidence is enough to have the whole thing thrown out of court on appeal. It's enough to have a federal lawsuit, which I'd get to file free from prison against both the judge and the prosecutor. They never even brought up the blog where I made the supposed threat. So that was never produced as evidence before they dropped the case. This becomes an issue because, I dealt with it one way, and the way I dealt with it was kind of on the extreme side. But I'm tired of being harassed by police officers, tired of being attacked by snitches, tired of being shot at. At a certain point, someone's going to snap. Rather than snap, I decided to control the situation. Instead of being set up by some informant in a way that I couldn't defend myself, I decided to allow myself to be charged with something that I knew that I had a built-in defense of. Hence the hypothetical legal argument and the embedded evidence. Now, the fact of the matter is people's opinions is more or less mainstream. And those mainstream opinions against the police are brought about because of the attitudes of police officers. But chanting kill cops is only going to make them have a worse attitude. It's only going to make them be more driven to act like Billy Badass and to act out of fear and to put up this threat posture, which is what they've been trained to do out of fear. And they're going to be more of a danger to society. Yes, these police officers are going to be more of a danger to society than they already are. People are complaining about, and I'm a little bit too light-skinned for anyone to give a shit if I get killed. If I was darker, maybe someone would give a crap about the stuff that I'm going through. But the fact of the matter is, the stuff that I'm going through, fabricated evidence, is something that people of color have gone through with it. It is something that is a continual basis that a lot of people go through, primarily people who are poor. And being one of these poor people, the reality of the matter is, I don't have all these special civil rights groups out there to protect me. And, I'm not even bitching about that. I'm simply stating a fact. The more important issue is that I provided evidence. Now, I did this for a reason, because that evidence is more damaging than going out here and killing a cop. Now, I understand everything that was done. I understand the people who died. I don't care what their skin color is. I don't give a crap about racism or politics or anything else, because people should not have been killed over nothing. Certainly over freaking cigarettes. Or, just because someone wanted to act a little bit hardcore because they have a badge and a gun. Now, that being said, attacking the cops, fighting to kill the cops, chanting to kill the cops, is going to do nothing more than give them an excuse to act out of fear, or more importantly, out of weakness, and to go out here and try to play a little bit harder and be a little bit tougher and position themselves to be more inclined to be harmful to society, more inclined to use violence or threats of violence or strong arm tactics or false arrest or any of this other stuff. And all you're doing is creating a situation where more violations of people's rights is going to occur, because the police now have an excuse to do so, because people are chanting kill cops and they feel threatened and and at the same time, it's going to encourage more people to go out here, because of those actions by the police, to go out here and carry out more violence against the police officers, which is just going to up the ante more and more and more until we reach a boiling point where things are just going to snap. I'm all for freedom of speech. It's a person's right to freedom of speech to get out here and say kill the police, or chant something about dead cops, or talk shit or say fuck the police, whatever. But at the same time, there's a thin line between saying, what would happen if we killed a cop, compared to, a poor black guy, and then saying, I'm going to kill the police. Because once you say I'm going to kill the police, you make a threat. Asking a hypothetical question about what may or may not occur, or what would happen if something had been done, is something completely different from actually making a legitimate threat. And there's a lot of people who've been arrested for making legitimate threats, and I'm sorry, that's your fault. The other issue to this is that why give bullies an excuse to be more like themselves? Why let a bunch of pussies who are hiding behind a badge and a gun have an excuse to want to pull that gun more and to make you respect their authority? I'm sorry. I don't know. These are just a couple thoughts I had about it. I'll hopefully just comment in the comment section, see if we can get some dialogue.